Yeah, I walk in the room, make the ceiling shake. Gold hoops, fresh fade, got that big boss cake. Never waited on a hand, I'm in my own lane. Told them put some respect when they say my name.
Hello, all, and welcome back to another episode of They Tried It. Of course, my name is Lindiwe Davis, aka the Couch Coach, as they call me. And I'm super excited today because we're going to be talking to a wonderful, wonderful professional. I'm going to give her a moment to introduce herself. But in the meantime, I'd love for you all to click the little subscribe button there. Yes. Feel free to catch me on YouTube, catch me on all the podcast channels, platforms, socials, right? As one of my friends calls it. You can catch me at Lindawi_speaks, or you can catch me at They Tried It Show on Instagram and pretty much everywhere else, I believe. And with that, super, super excited. We have a lovely guest. Her name is Shakira Polite. Shakira, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. As you said,
Absolutely.
my name is Shakira Polite. I am a Black woman who is very passionate about uplifting people
Yeah.
who look like me, people who are aligned with the values that I am aligned with. And I take that responsibility very seriously. It's threaded throughout my work, it's threaded throughout my personal life, it's threaded in how I mother my child. I've accepted that this is my place and my calling. And so that is more about who I am. What
Mhm.
I do is I'm a strategist and culture researcher working in commercial advertising, corporate branding. And what that means simply is like I help businesses talk to people, to humans being in a way that feels human, right?
Yeah.
And in its simplest form. I help them understand humans more deeply. They want to make money. We all want to make money. I
Sure.
think we
Sure.
are in an age of reciprocity, and that's extremely important. There's a give and a take and a balance. And so that's been my work. Yeah. I think that's like a better introduction.
I
The
like it.
the
I
the
like it.
who I am and the what I do, a little bit of both.
Absolutely. I'm Lindawi. I love walks on the beach. I'm an amazing Black woman as well. Feel free to ensure that my compensation is more than equitable, okay? Because probably for the last 30 years it hasn't been. Yeah, that's like a good, like,
Yeah, you got to get the
transformative.
things in there, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, of course, with every episode, I love starting off by talking about just a little bit about your origin story, particularly around school, right? Because a lot of
Mhm.
times, education, we put a lot of pressure on people when it comes to education, which I'm an advocate for. I really
Mhm.
want people to be much more informed so that they understand how to contextualize information, which
Yeah.
we've seen already in real life over the last probably 10 years, the rise of anti-intellectualism, but then also
Yes.
people not having a cultural competency to
Yes.
understanding the ecosystems that they're operating within, whether it's in business or even in their personal life. So talk to me a little bit about your origin story, school, things that you might have learned from your environment and growing up and where you're from.
Yeah, sure. So I am a proud New Yorker, one of the few that is left here, that was born
Mhm.
and raised here. Lived
Mhm.
in other places, but New York has always been home. In terms of school, I am a college dropout. I don't say that proudly or I don't say that shamefully. It's
Yeah.
just, a part of the story. I wanted to be an attorney. I thought that was the path, and then that wasn't the path.
Same.
I've always been creative and wanted to express more of my creativity, but didn't grow up in an environment and a family where that was nourished. And so I sort of had to find my way. I started off in fashion and then I went to luxury e-commerce, and that's sort of, I would say, the first time I started taking my career seriously. Fashion for me was really about exploration of that creative part of myself. And it was
Yeah.
also really hard because this was, 15 years ago when, there could only be one Black person or one Black woman, and you
Mhm.
had to look a certain way. You certainly couldn't have braids, right? There were a lot of barriers and structures around that. And I got into luxury, like the e-commerce space when it was really bubbling up. I
Mhm.
worked for brands like Cartier, I worked for Vuitton, I worked for APC, which is like a smaller French brand,
Okay.
and really learning, like taking all of the fashion experience and passion that I had and taking that natural inclination of knowing how to read people and connect with people on a deeper level,
Yeah.
and putting that into something that where it could work for me and I could make money. So that was the first time I really started to take my career seriously. And so I
Yeah.
moved up the ranks a bit in that on the corporate side. And then I kind of got tired of it because I just
Hmm.
felt like meaning was more important to me, and like connecting on a deeper level with people was more important. And not that fashion cannot be meaningful,
Yeah.
because it is, but I think the
Absolutely.
type of meaning that I was looking for at the time I could not get from that industry. And so I transitioned out, still staying in the e-commerce space.
Hmm.
And in terms of education, I am for sure a student of life.
Yeah.
So lifelong learner, will always be learning. But I think the difference, or the distinction that I want to make, is that I challenge myself and I took the time to learn things.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, I'm introduced to this and now I can do it. No, I put hours of studying into
Hmm.
my craft,
Right.
hours of being mentored, hours of someone telling me something, giving me a resource, and me actually taking the time to learn it and study it and expand on my thinking,
Hmm.
as a strategist. And so, I too am a major proponent of being educated. I think there are
Hmm.
many ways to be educated. There's traditional, there's non-traditional. What is important is that you have to put the hours in.
Right.
You can't just wake up and say, "Oh, I have an inkling, or I feel like I want to do this thing," and then go do it and call yourself an expert.
Right.
No. There's a degree of learning by doing, but you cannot skip the foundational elements, right? And so
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
want to make that distinction of like learning is important, and saying that you have a skill set, you must have the foundational elements of that skill. And I continue to learn, even in my role now, I'm being challenged, I'm being pressed and pulled, and I'm growing and I'm learning more. And I always appreciate those things. And
Yeah.
so when I transitioned out of fashion and went into e-commerce, it was great. I then found myself wanting to do more strategy, wanting to like really lean into that more. And I didn't know anyone in commercial advertising. Like I didn't have those contacts yet, and I couldn't get hired anywhere.
Hmm.
And I said, okay, well, I'll do my own thing, because
Yeah.
why not, right?
Right. Hmm.
And so I had a lot of women in my network at the time who were building things. They were building jewelry companies, they were building fashion brands, they were building, culinary companies and concepts. And I said, well, you know what? There's a lot of things that I know, and I know as new businesses, they need these things. And so why not tell them what I know, right? And try to
Right.
like impart what I know, and have it work for people in my community.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, it's important to not gatekeep knowledge. So when you know a thing, it's important that you share the thing.
Right.
Me knowing something and then sharing it with you does not make you a threat to me. And so
That's
I
right.
was very keen on sharing all of the things that I had learned working in these corporate spaces, being mentored by, these C-suite people who wanted to impart their wisdom on me. I wanted to now share it with folks in my network. And so I remember going around telling people, like, hey, do you need a strategist? And their response was always like, yeah, do you do social media? And I'm like, nope, that's not what this is. I
No.
absolutely don't do
Hmm.
that. That is not what I do. And so after a while, people started to understand and, of course, appreciate the services and the knowledge that I had to offer. And started off with, micro and small businesses, and
Hmm.
then pivoted around 2020 to brand partnerships. And so
Okay.
really marrying those micro and small businesses that were already my clients to major brands like the
Okay.
Brooklynettes, like American Express, like Walmart, and I was thinking about this the other day because, someone had asked me why I don't post like political things a lot on my social media,
Okay.
because I did like this art event and I posted about it in my stories, and they're like, it's someone I know personally, and they messaged me and they're like, oh, like I know you're not on much, but whenever you're on, like I don't really see you civically engaged. And I just thought that was so funny.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you really don't know me. Because if
Mm-hmm.
you knew me, you would know that I do this in real life. And
Right.
that's no shade to people who actively post, because we all have a role to play in this. But I
Right.
just thought that was interesting because I have generated over $500,000 within these communities and within these businesses that I have been affiliated with since 2018.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
proud of that.
Yeah, I mean, I first of all appreciate the context because again, a person is not one thing, right? A
Hmm.
person can be many things. You don't have to fit into some bucket. You don't have to say I'm only this thing, right? A human being is made up of a lot of different things. There's a lot of different layers and nuances. And to my mother's credit, she reminded me when I was younger, you can have several dreams. You don't have to have just one dream. And it doesn't mean that you have to pursue them all at once, but it does mean that you don't have to hold yourself to one thing because you deserve to explore all of those things and have access to all of those things. Diving in and shifting into the title of the podcast, right? Because a lot of times when you have all this education, you've got the lived experience, you've got that portfolio to back you up. Now we're in a place where it's like, I'm presenting all of this to people. I want to join the team. I want to become that leader. I want to assist and join this program that's going to accelerate where I'm headed on this path. What has been your experience in any one of those lanes, in trying to get to your next step? Because as you said, you can't just wake up and say, oh, yes, I'm going to be someone who watches birds and I'm going to become a bird expert. You're not going to do that.
Yeah.
You're taking some courses. You're going to
Hmm.
regularly be bird watching in different areas of the world, etc. That was just a fun example, but you understand what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
absolutely.
Um, so you're on this path, you're on this journey, you're traveling the road as this strategist, right? Where have you found the adversity? Where did you find those challenges? And let's dig into how you handled those things as well.
Yeah, 100%. I know strategy is a field that is predominantly white, period.
Hmm.
And I would probably even go as far as to say predominantly white men.
True.
So there's that, right?
Hmm.
Obviously, you can see me, I'm not a white man. So
Right.
there's that layer. And then strategy is also something, you are judged by how you think,
Right.
right? And then how you sort of build that narrative for people to
Hmm.
follow with clarity. And how you think is judged often by where you went to school, where
Yeah.
you used to work, right? And like being an intellectual is often married with your educational background. And
Hmm.
then it's often tied to a traditional educational background.
True.
And so I was up against a lot because I had none of those.
Hmm. Hmm.
I would consider myself an intellectual person, but I didn't
Yeah.
have the traditional background. And so it was very difficult. Even as I started to make more connections, it was, oh, you've never worked at a, commercial advertising agency? No, won't hire you, won't even
Hmm.
talk to you. And so what I noticed is that as I started working with bigger brands,
Yeah.
it's like, I can do this. I worked
Hmm.
with the Brooklyn Nets. They gave us a budget, executed. Great. Project went extremely well. I worked
Hmm.
with company X. Like, I can be in these rooms,
Right.
and I wanted even, I don't know if it was validation, but I think there's a level of when you're a disruptor or
Hmm.
when you're coming through the back door, it
Right.
can get exhausting
Hmm.
because you have to do all of that work before you even get to the door.
Right.
And then once you're in the door, you have to then work, more so than anyone else because of the stigma, that's attached to all of the things that I said. And it
Right.
just became exhausting. And I said, I'm at a point right now where I can transition out. I've
Hmm.
honed my craft. I've developed a level of skill. And also, me sort of coming from the outside gives me an edge that a lot of people don't have because they've
Yeah.
been in this siloed environment.
Mhm.
And so I knew that in order for me to get to where I wanted to be, I had to have the connections, but I also had to learn how to speak the language.
Yeah.
In any industry that you go into, there's a lingo, right?
Mhm.
And it's not to say that I didn't know what those things meant, but I didn't know the lingo.
That's actually half the battle of understanding how to move in various ecosystems that we're all trying to tap into. Mind
Exactly.
you, there's more than enough space to tap into those industries and
Yes.
ecosystems and rooms. Let's drill down on a specific adversity or challenge that you were
Hmm.
faced with, right?
Sure.
Talk to us a little bit about a program or a role that you were in, or just an environment that came about with challenges and adversity that were unnecessary.
Yeah. So I joined a program. There's an organization based out of London. It's called
Mhm,
DNAD. So
mhm.
at its core, they give awards for creative excellence in design. But then
Yeah.
they have a program, they have like a philanthropic extension, and there's a program called Shift. And the
Mm,
purpose of the program is to sort of disrupt the industry by
yeah.
taking people with non-traditional backgrounds like myself and giving them exposure to commercial advertising, right? And
Okay.
so I saw the program and I said, well, I'm not a designer, I'm not a creative, but I want in, right? I
Right.
want access to this. And if they can provide it, let me try my hand, you know? So they have a New York cohort every year.
Okay.
And long story short, I got into the program. And
Okay.
so in the program, you're working with commercial advertising agencies directly. You're
Mhm.
working on briefs. And so they put you in teams as they would if you work in an agency environment, right? So
Okay.
there's a copywriter, there's an art director, there's a strategist, there's a project manager, right? And so on one of the teams that I was on throughout the program, I happened to be the only woman on the team.
Mhm.
Okay, you know, these things happen.
Right. We're used to it.
And so we had to build a community-based concept for a global sports brand. One person on the team in particular, there was a lot of friction.
Mm.
And so the person did express that they had, I believe it was ADHD.
Okay.
So everyone understood there was a level of sensitivity that needed to be had with giving this person time and space to process, to think, to come back.
Okay.
I started to notice a pattern that any suggestions that were made that came from me, this person did not like.
Did you suspect in that moment when they were with the friction that you were sensing, did you understand where it was coming from? Was there something inside of you that was saying to yourself, is this friction coming from someone else's self-esteem? Is it coming from someone else's intimidation through how I'm speaking or through my ideas? What was your sense about that?
Not at first, because I'm the type of person where I will really go out of my way to give someone a chance. Just in terms
Fair.
of like their character, like how I
Right.
judge and perceive people.
Right.
I really try not to pass judgment too early. I really try to be self-aware and thoughtful when I'm engaging with other humans, right? And
Mhm.
so at first I'm like, well, perhaps my delivery wasn't where it should be, or perhaps I didn't say it in a way, you know, that he could fully grasp it. So I tried
Mhm.
adjusting, right?
Okay.
And when I noticed that wasn't working, I then started observing,
Mm.
observing how he responded to others and observing how he responded to me. So I do a lot of self-testing. Like when I'm engaging
Yes.
with people, I'll say, let me try this tactic and then analyze it and see what it is. So after doing that a few times, I noticed it didn't matter if I gave him the time or the space.
Mm.
Whenever I said something, there was this tension and he was very hostile towards me.
Okay.
And so it was to the point where it was affecting our work because
Okay.
he refused to. Now, I know you understand, but for people watching that may not understand the structure of like how the team is and how the work flows through, as a strategist, it is our job to guide. Like you
Right.
create the pathway,
That's
right?
right.
And the creative team then takes that and interprets it in a way that is digestible for the audience,
That's right.
right? So it is my role to sort of shepherd, to steer, right? Not to
Mm-hmm.
be a boss, not to tell anyone how, but to make sure we are in alignment with whatever that brief is that we're charged to do. And we were aligned on the strategy, but then he's the outlier. We're
Mm.
aligned on, the creative approach. He's the outlier. Every time
Okay.
we get aligned, he wants to come in and disrupt and come in with something completely new. Now, it would be one thing if your new 11th hour idea was good, but it wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't.
What?
I mean,
Say
okay.
that again. It would be one thing if you came in and you had a
Hmm.
suggestion or idea that was helpful
That's correct.
or would be even more efficient and
Yep,
effective. But you
exactly.
were just being a contrarian just to be a contrarian.
For what reason?
For what reason? And so now you went from adjusting
Mm-hmm.
to observing to
Mm-hmm.
now enduring
Yes.
disruption.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
keep going.
And so I
Mhm,
remember distinctly, like we were on a Zoom call, having a session, and the conversation went to like slightly personal, which it often does, even in
mhm.
work environments.
Right.
And I don't know how we got on the topic of, I don't know if it was dating or whatever it was, but
Mhm.
he said, when I was in high school, the black girls never liked me
Oh,
because I wasn't hood enough. There it is.
okay, there it is right there. So now now we're starting to build a psychological profile and we're not even a psychologist. Okay.
Now we're all so right. It's quiet, right?
Uh-huh.
And just for context, everyone on the call was black, right? So there's even a level of safety within that, right?
That
And
should be. It should be.
right. And
Mhm.
everyone sort of stopped and looked at each other like, okay. Because everyone on the call is at least 30.
Mhm.
So, you were in high school 12
Right.
years ago, right?
Right.
And so he's like, yeah, they didn't like me because, you know, I was into anime and I wasn't hood and I wasn't fighting. And so I said, well, when I was in high school, there were guys who liked anime. That was cool.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, there were guys that did different things. And, you know, so I don't really understand this, they didn't like you because you weren't hood. So you're
Mm.
saying that black girls, who now black women, aka
Mm.
me,
Right.
only like men that are hood. Like, so then in that moment, it all made sense.
Mhm. Mhm.
You're holding on to whatever you're holding on to, and you are projecting that on me and on
That's
this
right.
situation because you have not gotten over whatever that is.
Mhm.
And at that point, I realized, okay, this is no longer for me to carry.
Okay.
See, I'm willing to share the load if it's about being a team player, right?
Yeah.
For the
Yeah.
good of the work. I'm willing to share the load. I'm willing to share the load if it's about being empathetic towards someone who needs some extra support. I'm
Okay.
willing.
Okay.
I'm even willing to share the load from my people. And by my people in this context, I mean, we were all a part of this program because we did something beautiful somewhere else.
That's
And
right.
now we're trying to take what we've learned and penetrate a new place that wasn't really meant for us to be in. So my people. So I'm
Right.
even willing to share the load for the good of that. I'm not sharing the load for someone who doesn't value me,
Mm.
doesn't respect me, and is putting weight on me that has nothing to do with me. Oh, I can't hold that.
You can't hold it, and also it wasn't up to you to try to understand after those stages, right? After the adjusting and the observing, the enduring, right? And this deliberation of behavior, I think a lot of times, just as people, but especially as Black and Brown women, we often try to carry and understand why someone is reacting to us when we have no additional context as to why they're behaving that way,
Yeah.
whether it's because they feel intimidated or they don't like your level of confidence or They're having some sort of memory and now projecting that behavior into whatever the situation was meant to be in terms of the work that you all were trying to produce.
Yeah.
A lot of times we carry that, and it's a good point to make that you don't have to. That's also tied to trauma responses, and we don't find
Yes.
that out until we start going to therapy, until we start really
Yes.
digging into our own behaviors of understanding work environment, relationships, and ecosystems. But that's the key word too, systems. Lots of
Yeah.
systems were in place. And it's a lot of work for anybody to try to understand. But then those get a little tricky when you look like us. And then
Yes.
you layer in people's personal behaviors,
Yes.
and their own traumas and things that they should be working on that we don't have anything to do with. And so after the statement was made, now everyone's kind of looking around the room trying to understand what's going on with this particular person. What happens after that?
So after that, I decided to remove myself from personally engaging, right?
Yeah.
So now we're only talking about work.
Yeah.
I'm being much more direct and assertive because now it's only about the work. And
Mhm.
so the tipping point for me was we had a presentation. We were all aligned on, everyone has a task, everyone knows what to do.
Okay.
The day of the presentation, he said he's not participating. And he
Mm.
came with a completely different, because he was the designer. That was his role. So he came with a completely different presentation deck.
Mm.
And none of us are designers on this team. So he left us to put together our deck in the 11th hour and
Oh,
came
wow.
with a completely different deck that displayed his ideas.
So now we're talking sabotage.
Now we're talking sabotage. So at
Mhm.
that point, I
Mm.
said, this is now completely above me. And
Right.
I need to take it to, the decision makers of this program. And
Mhm.
this is important because to what you were saying earlier, we carry a lot. And I think too, for Black and brown women, specifically, it could be for white women too, but I don't know.
Mhm.
We often go out of our way to
Yeah.
protect our men in,
Yeah.
in any environment.
Mhm.
And so for me, before talking to the powers that be,
Yeah.
I grappled with that because I'm like,
Mhm.
here is this Black man who's trying to get an opportunity and grow and better himself. And I don't want to be responsible
Yeah.
for taking that away from him. I
Right.
don't ever want to feel that way. But then I said, well, Shakira, you're not responsible. He's
Mm-mm.
responsible.
That's right.
You've done all you can. So I reported it. We had a conversation. They said they would investigate.
Mm.
Turns out I wasn't the only one that said anything. And the real crescendo moment of this was we had these, like, whenever we would do like a presentation, we would
Mhm.
have like group sessions where
Yeah.
we could just come and sort of, oh, how do you think you did? Like almost like a support group in a way.
Okay.
And they were hosted by an alumni of the program who was, now very senior in her career, etc.
Mm.
And I remember we were all on the call.
Yeah.
And so everyone was just like, I mean, we've all been there when you present and it's just brutal. Like the
Right.
feedback isn't good. Like you're just like, God damn, like I want to crawl into a hole.
Like, this
We
thing is good because they can't see it.
we've all been there. And so everyone was just like, just unloading, right?
Yeah.
Unloading all of those emotions. And he got, it was his turn to speak.
Mhm.
And he just started ranting about me. And he didn't say my name, but
Yeah.
he said her, she, everyone knows it's me because I'm
Oh.
the only her, she, her on the team.
Oh
And
my.
he didn't take any responsibility, no accountability. He just was like, oh, she sabotaged. She thinks she knows everything. Just, I mean, I'm 41 years old. At the time,
Okay.
this was 4 years ago or so. I've never been in a professional situation where I was enraged. I've
Mm.
never been in a professional situation where I felt stripped of my dignity. I'll go
Mm.
there because in that
Yeah.
moment, that's how I felt. Like
Yeah.
he completely berated me
Yeah.
in a public setting amongst my peers.
Mm-hmm.
And not just amongst my peers, it's, when you're working in a group, any type of group collaborative environment, there are always people who take on more leadership roles. I was
Mm-hmm.
one of those people
Yeah.
because I had a body of work coming into the program with global brands coming into the program. I had already had a career and a half coming
Mm-hmm.
into the program. And so these were my peers, but also people that I was mentoring and pouring into. I felt completely naked.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And for the hours of guidance and, when you are giving, at least for me, if I'm pouring into someone, they don't owe me. I don't expect anything in return because I made the decision.
Yeah.
In that moment, I only wished that the other two men on my team, the other people that I had poured into, I only wished that they would have come to my aid
Yeah.
because they didn't. And it,
Yeah.
it went on for about 3 or 4 minutes. And, I had people texting me, but there was one person who's now a dear friend of mine who was like, I don't even know what's going on here, but this will not happen. Like, you will not disrespect any woman here while I'm on this call. Like,
Mm.
absolutely not. And shut it down. And then the woman who was running it sort of piggybacked and just was like, there's a way for you to explain things. And I got off the phone and I cried. And I have
Mm.
never, and this is not a badge of honor, it doesn't make me strong, but I have never cried over something at work.
Yeah.
That's just not the kind of person that I am. But
Right.
it wasn't just work. He attacked my character
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
a human being, and I take that very seriously. And it was just brutal, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounded
Af-
like it was a targeted attack because you all knew that this presentation was coming up. And so instead of being focused on the presentation, he decided to use it as his moment, to share whatever ill will feelings that he made up in terms of a false narrative when it comes to you, the individual, which had nothing to do with what you all were originally there to present on to begin with. And so something that you said here about feeling naked. I think a lot of times people in situations when they're facing adversity or they're facing challenges, and a lot of those times those challenges or adversity are not just coming from the system. That's a whole nother layer. We're
mhm.
talking about from an actual individual who is actually causing these problems, which is now causing you to react a certain way. I
Yeah.
think the naked part is a lot of what a lot of people feel, because now, if you're in a group setting like that, there should have been more people who spoke up. And
Mhm.
not because one person said it and now you want to piggyback off of it,
Mhm. Mhm.
your moral compass kicked in. No, it should be a natural part of how we move when we see wrongdoing in workspaces
Yes.
in general.
Yes. 100%. 100,
Yeah.
and it's something that I would have been that person. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely not. Not in my presence. If you have a problem, you can address it with this person. You can have a one-on-one, but we're not going to allow anyone to be berated,
No, no.
in a public forum. Yeah, so it was very challenging. And ultimately, he was removed from the program.
Mm,
And even still thinking about it, it's unfortunate.
mhm.
I don't feel sorry for him in any way, but it's just unfortunate because he
Yeah.
did have a talent,
Yeah.
and we know working in this industry how difficult it can be
Yeah.
for us to penetrate. And it's
Oh,
unfortunate because someone else could have had his spot. It's
yeah.
unfortunate because he could have potentially went further. Yeah, so that's the situation. I think, it took me a while to sit with it, and sort of work through how I felt about it. I also really badgered myself, if I'm being honest, about
Mhm.
crying because I couldn't believe that someone that I don't know personally, someone that I
Mhm.
don't love, could actually make me feel that way. That's
Yeah.
never happened to me, and it's
Mm.
not about I don't know if it's I don't know what it is, but that's just not my personality.
Mhm.
A stranger cannot make me feel bad about myself because they don't know me.
Right. Right.
So it took a while, but I eventually, was able to move past it. And
Hmm.
now, with that organization, I sit on their like global alumni board, and I have a hand in, how things are and amplifying and platforming people. And to me, that's the best way,
Yeah.
to heal from it, because now I'm able to use that experience that I had and create impact and ripples in the lives of other people.
As you should. And the call out there is also around sitting, like when you graduate from that part of your pathway as you're traveling along, whether it's graduation from school, whether it's graduation from a program, and you look back and you're able to connect that to now being on the board. Now you are someone who can impact people from a place of, this is how we really want to handle people. This is how we want to communicate with people. This is how we want to operate this program. Here are the suggestions, which is the whole point of being on the board. Oh man, this is a whole nother conversation. But to your point about not feeling sorry for him, that's a great call out, because we all have to make the decisions that we need to make. And at the end of the day, he made a different decision. I think the other thing to kind of drill down on is when you went to the program leads to let them know about the situation, what were you feeling? Were you feeling a level of fear? Because you mentioned, of course, when you belong to Black and Brown communities, a lot of times we end up protecting people that we should not be protecting, right?
Hmm.
And it's just a part of our lexicon of how we move as a culture, as
Yeah.
a people. And it's also tied to history, how we're
Yes.
always wanting to protect the people that belong to the communities that we belong to.
Yes.
Um, However, I think making sure that we understand that we're not betraying anything when we see wrongdoing, we
Hmm.
need to lean into that a little bit more. So, was it a feeling of fear built in, or were you hoping that by going to the lead that this would have been enough for him to change his behavior?
The latter for sure. Because, they, first of all, I will say they created, at least from my experience, a very safe space. I felt like I could confide in them. I felt like,
Yeah,
they were always fair. So there
yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
any fear of like there may be retaliation against me. I didn't
Hmm.
feel like that at all. I had no other choice but to go to them, right?
Okay.
And so when I went, my stance was very clear. Handle it how you see fit. You're made aware. You do what you want to do,
Yeah,
and my hope, to your point, was that he would adjust,
yeah. Much
because
like you did in the very
yeah,
beginning. Okay.
exactly. That was my hope, and I found out later that, he wasn't willing, even the conversation he had with them, he was very combative. He didn't take any accountability, didn't understand what, all the drama was about. And
Hmm.
so he got what he got, like you said, based off his actions.
Yeah,
Uh,
that right there is also another call out around people not taking accountability for their behavior, as if you were supposed to endure bad behavior in workspaces. A lot of
yes.
times there's a confusion around, oh, well, I'm getting this paycheck or I'm getting this opportunity, so I'm just going to stay quiet. Or, oh, I should just be thankful for the opportunity. But
Hmm.
it's like, those are very separate things. You can be thankful for an opportunity and still speak up for yourself when it's
Yes,
necessary,
that
right?
is
And you don't need
correct.
to confuse the two. They're very
Yeah.
different things. It's the same thing when it comes to compensation. You can
Hmm.
be thankful that you're getting the opportunity to even negotiate, but you also need to speak up on what is equitable and what is not. I think the thing with speaking up, whether it's filing a complaint, whether it's bringing something to a leader's attention, do you think that that is a tool or a pathway that you would use again if you felt it necessary? And what's the one thing that you learned from doing that for yourself going forward?
It's definitely a path I would use again, and using it also as a last resort, because
Absolutely.
I don't believe I need to shy away from conflict. I don't
Right.
mind leaning into conflict. I don't mind having uncomfortable conversations. So I
Yeah.
even think that, the process, how I engage with him, giving grace, space, understanding, sort of analyzing and seeing like, okay, well, is it me? Is it you? Is it, like
Mhm.
the flow or the process that I did, I still do those things, right?
Yeah.
I don't pass judgment. I give people an opportunity to show me who they are. I have conversations. I lean into what I think that they need. Because again, to me, that's a part of being a good collaborator and a good
True.
communicator, right?
Mhm.
So I would follow those same steps, have a conversation to see if we can resolve the conflict.
Right.
And then if we can't, taking it to whoever the decision makers are to figure it out however they want to figure it out, and
Yeah.
fully understanding that, in some spaces, the person is not removed.
Not at all. Not at all.
It hasn't happened to me, but I have friends and colleagues who in
Mhm.
some spaces you still have to work with the person,
It's
right?
true.
And that's like another layer,
Mhm.
but ultimately I think you have to advocate for yourself, right? If you don't do it, who will? I think there's a way to say whatever it is that you want to say, right?
Mhm.
We all know how to communicate and articulate. And if you don't have the words, go find them. Pick up a
Go find them.
thesaurus, talk
Mm.
to,
Not the thesaurus.
because listen, a thesaurus and a dictionary will get you far in life, right? You may not
You
feel
better
like you
say
have the
that. Mm.
vocabulary
Yeah,
to talk to some people. They struggle with that.
they do.
They don't feel like they have the vocabulary to articulate to higher ups.
That's
But
right.
if that's how you feel, write out what you want to and get your thesaurus.
Yes. Find
Figure
you
it out.
someone who is very good with words. Okay.
Yes, talk to a mentor, talk to
Mhm.
someone in your network, a family member, whomever that can give you very solid and practical advice. Don't
Yes.
talk to someone that does not understand your situation. That's another thing.
Oh.
You're in one industry and you're doing a certain thing and you talk to someone that has no idea, has
Mhm.
no line of sight into how your industry moves, how it
Right.
is, in corporate America. Don't
That's
talk to
right.
that person because they'll have
Mhm.
you out here jobless.
You better say that more clearly. They'll have you out here jobless, darling.
Right.
Okay.
Talk to
You have to
people
have a
who can give
strategy.
you the valuable advice so you
Mhm.
can like strategize and get what it is that you want.
That's right.
And we all have community for that reason.
Community, having a network. That statement about your network is your net worth, it really is true. And taking it to the levels of how you can utilize your network, who a lot of those people end up becoming your community and
Hmm.
also who you deem as family.
Yeah.
And so being able to identify those folks is going to be super, super helpful. It's very true that speaking to the wrong person could have you out here jobless,
Hmm.
right? You always should have a strategy when you know you're about to speak up for something that is
Yes.
happening to you. It doesn't matter what it is: bullying, retaliation, compensation, promotion, racism, whatever the thing is, ageism, etc., sexual harassment.
Yeah.
Whatever the thing is, you have to lead with the truth. You have to lead with your level of courage, because this is something I've talked about for a long time too. Whatever your level of courage is going to determine your level of activation.
I
You
love that.
understand
Yeah.
what it is internally, it'll also be a helpful guide for you. Perfect example, as I've said in other episodes, my level of courage on a scale of 1 to 10, if there was such a thing, is probably right around an 8, maybe an 8.5. So I'm going to
Hmm.
take it as far as I need to take it, right?
Hmm.
But it's just what it is. But for someone else, their level of courage might be at a 3. So maybe
Yeah.
that's just, let me take it to the team lead, or let me say something anonymously, or
Yeah.
let me say it to someone who I think is going to speak up on my behalf. And then we'll go from there, right? But I think understanding these things, as you've also kind of touched on, will allow you to move forward in any kind of challenge or adversity. And remembering that you are always going to be the advocate for yourself.
Hmm.
It could be
Yes.
you literally in the room and you are advocating for just you. But we all have to remember the advocacy is meant to touch the people that are coming behind us, including the people that are
Yes.
beside us who are much more focused on their paycheck, which
Yes.
we all love a good paycheck. We need jobs
Hmm.
to for
We
our
sure do.
livelihood,
We
right? To get
sure
people
do.
traveling on
All
and
the things.
education, right?
We talked about going to
Um,
Martha's Vineyard, honey, over the summer.
Listen, we trying to get there, all right? But that doesn't mean that you're gonna talk crazy to me. All right.
Not at
You're not
all.
going to do that. No,
Not
no,
at
no.
all.
That's not going to happen. I think with these stories, as we continue to hear them, and with your situation being one that a lot of people experience, right, in different degrees and in different environments, what's three things that you want people to know when they're faced with any challenge? It doesn't matter what it is. Three things that you think that you can give to people that are simple things that they can remember for themselves.
Hmm. I would say reflect before you act.
Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah.
number one. Mm-hmm.
Right. Taking a beat, taking a pause to sort of, because sometimes our emotions can just have us, you
Woo!
know, just off the cliff, like
Mhm. Thelma and
immediately.
Louise. Just
Yeah.
Thelma and Louise. Just jump
Waking
right
up,
on off. You ain't got no
choosing
string,
violence.
you ain't got no
Yes.
parachute,
So,
nothing. Just out there.
yes. So reflect before you act. Number one. Number two, understand the seasons, right? I
Understand the
think that,
seasons.
human beings, we are natural, right? We are
Mhm.
natural creatures, and all of us exist in constructs.
Mhm.
And so you can feel this tension, just this automatic tension, because again, we are natural beings and we exist in these boxes. Whether or not we want to be, sometimes we're placed there. So I think
Yeah.
like understanding that there are seasons, right? Meaning there are time, every action has a place, right? So
Yes.
there is a time to seed and
Mm.
nurture.
Yeah.
There is a time to go through all the turmoil,
Mm.
and the chaos. There's a time to blossom, and there's a
Mhm.
time to thrive, right?
That's right.
Those are the seasons. And so I
Mhm.
think like after you reflect, you may have to go through a season or two
Mhm.
to really get to the goal,
Yeah.
right? And then the third thing that I will say is that it's not your fault, right? You
Yeah.
can take accountability, you can, take responsibility, but it is not your fault. To your earlier point, everyone, people decide how they want to act.
That's right.
I don't even care if it's a reaction to me. Doesn't
Mhm.
matter. You
Mhm.
you you decide. And so
You
it's not your fault.
That's
Regardless
right.
of whatever happens, once you decide that you've filed that complaint, or it's not your fault. So those
That's
are the
right.
three things that I would say. Reflect before you act. Understand and identify the seasons. Know the seasons that you are in and what that means in your life. And
That's right.
then also know that it's not your fault.
That is not your fault. Those are excellent, excellent points for so many people to remember. Is there a mantra that you are living by right now? We're at the beginning of the year. This is the year of the horse, right? We've
Hmm.
got to jump on that horse and ride to the destiny, stopping along the way for water, friends, family, but we're not staying stopped. No,
Yeah.
we're going to keep moving. So, is there a mantra that you're living by right now, or something that you've always lived by?
Right now, my mantra is I want it all.
Oh, mm,
Yeah, very
okay, we'll put
simple.
it in your pocket then.
Yeah,
Oh.
simple. It's in what that means for me is not what that means for you. It's
That's
not what that
right.
means for the people listening, right? So
Mhm, mhm.
I've identified all of the things. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean I want everything. No, 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 no.
Get your hand out
I
my
want,
pocket. Yeah,
listen,
yeah.
I want what's for Shakira, Chantel, Polite. That's what
Yeah,
I want. And
right.
I've identified the things that actually matter, right?
Mhm,
I've
mhm.
identified the things that are going to get me to this world that I'm building, because I'm
Yeah,
world building right now. That's the season that I'm in,
okay.
and so the blossoming is happening. We're entering the thriving season, right?
Mhm,
Full
mhm.
summer beauty,
Okay.
glowing, moisturized skin all the
That's right.
time.
Mhm.
That's where we're at, or that's where we're
Yeah.
headed. And so I've identified all of the things that I want, and not on a superficial level, like on
Mm-mm.
a deep intrinsic level, and I
Mhm.
want it all.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
will not compromise. I want it all. So
That's right.
that's my mantra. I have my declarations written down for the year. We could do a whole other conversation about that, because my friend and I, listen, girl, We have these declaration dinners, and let me
Mm,
tell you,
mm.
God, the universe, however you want to call it, moves through that space.
That's right.
And we call into our lives the things that we want. And
That's
it's
right.
not a joke, it's not a game.
Mm-mm.
And it doesn't mean you don't do the work.
No,
No, of course,
no,
you got to do the work. But
it's true.
every single thing that I called upon last year
Mm-hmm.
came to me.
Come on.
Came to me.
You
And
better
that
say
work
that.
was hard work. So now I
Yes.
see, like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can, for Shakira Chantel Polite
Come
and the
on.
things that I want, oh, I can have it all.
Okay. Okay. You know
So
what?
that's
So
a
interesting. You
mantra.
just reminded me that one of the things that's kind of been floating around me for after I had an aha moment, I would probably say a couple months ago, but it was a
Mhm,
reminder. The reminder was that there is nothing out of reach for you.
mhm.
Even with all the barriers and the challenges and not having access to certain things or doors being closed, there is nothing out of reach for you. I said, you know what, Lord, you're right.
Mhm.
You're right. Because sometimes
Mhm.
the Lord be talking to you in a language
Oh,
that you only
yes.
you can understand,
Oh, yes.
you know? So
Oh, yes.
with that being said, I appreciate you so much for coming on and talking to me today. So many insights, lots of gems. Tell the people what you're hoping for this year, what thriving looks like.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Thriving looks like balance, right?
Yes.
Balancing my career, balancing my role as a mother, which is the most important role for
Hmm.
me, balancing a love that is kind, that
Mm,
is nurturing with a
that's right.
partner. It's balancing all of the things, and it is doing what feels good to me almost all the time. Like
Oh,
I want to be, and we have to work, and we might get a client we don't like not those things,
right.
but because you have to do, like we said, Martha's Vineyard, we're
Right.
getting the money.
Right. Right.
But doing things that feel good. Like I have now, and I think we all have this internal system, or whether you nervous system, whatever you want to call it, that it can feel when we're in
Hmm.
alignment. And I
Yeah.
always want to be in joy. I
Yeah.
always want to be in alignment. That
Mhm.
goes for everything. And so
Mm,
that's what thriving looks like for me. Waking up and feeling good,
that's
doing
right.
the things that I want to do. I want to
Mhm.
plant things in the garden. I'm doing it. I
Okay.
want to build a table. That's like a weird obsession of mine. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take a woodworking class. I want to travel. I'll do it. I
Okay.
want to go to the museum on a Tuesday. I'm doing, like, being in alignment and being in joy. That's
Yeah.
what thriving looks like. That's what I look forward to for this year. The foundation has been laid, the flowers have been nurtured and watered.
Mm,
They are blooming, and the rest is just going to be so magical. And I
that's right.
really look forward to it. And the last thing I'll say is, you had said, like, your network is your net worth.
Mhm.
I agree with you. I mean, it brings so much joy to know that if
Mhm.
I'm calculating my network, oh, I'm a billionaire. Like,
Yeah.
my network now, girl, the network is networking.
Okay.
Like, I
Dressed.
mean,
Mhm.
it is.
Mhm. Accessories and earrings and all. Got the coat, the bag.
Listen, the people that I know, not a Instagram no,
No.
but like in the phone,
In the phone. Okay. All
pick up
right.
when I call.
Mm.
Move for me without the request.
Mm.
Oh, oh,
Oh, it's good. That's
it's
good.
good. It's good. So yeah.
I appreciate that so much. Just I love everything that was said here. Very insightful, very meaty. I want to remind people the point of the podcast, right? And you'll probably hear me say this several times throughout episodes, but they tried it as anchored around this idea of someone trying to play you, trying to make a fool of you, trying to stop your pathway. And I want you to know that they can't do that, right? We can stand in our own way. It may even look like that company is too big to fight, or that person is too well off to go after. But the truth of the matter is, you do have power, you do have courage. Your voice is for you, your story. You are the expert of your story. And I want you to remember, even after going through hard things, you still can be in a moment of thriving, and you deserve that. And with that,
Yes.
Shakira, I appreciate you so much for coming on today.
Oh, what a way to end a Friday. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I look forward to all of you continuing to rock with me. Don't forget to subscribe because we need that support. Yes. And I thank you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day wherever you are in the world. And I'm wishing you nothing but the best.
Yes.
Cheers.
I ain't never gonna stop. No cosign needed, I've been self-made. If you cut from my cloth, that's designer grade. Level up.